Zach LaVine, the high-scoring shooting guard, is he on his way out of the Chicago Bulls? Where could he land? Or is he going to be stuck in the Windy City? I'm Trevor Lane. This is the Basketball Bulletin. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel and turn on those notifications as well. Donnie, I think Zach LaVine gets a little bit of a bad rap. He's a better player than people give him credit for. He's putting up great numbers this year. The problem is just that darn contract that he's got really messing everything up.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, make sure that when you guys subscribe, you know that you're doing the right thing, because about 80% of the viewers are not currently doing the right thing. So make sure that you join the 20% that is. You won't regret it.
Guilt them into subscribing. Do the right thing.
Do the right thing. I choose you. So Zach LaVine, back to him. You know, the crazy thing is that he's coming off of back-to-back 30-plus games. He's looked awesome this year. He's been hyper efficient. I mean, when you pull up his numbers, there's not really anything in there that tells you that, you know, teams shouldn't trade for him. We've talked about this before. I don't think that the injury concern is like the main thing with him. I think that really what it is it's the contract, because the contract is just really, really hard to sell yourself on. But regardless, I think he's awesome. And I do think he's somebody that, you know, maybe if a team like theoretically the Warriors wanted to talk themselves into it to try to make a push this year, they could do it. But, you know, he's in a weird spot for sure.
Yeah, he definitely is. It's the contract, but here's what Brian Windhorst had, and this is Evan Sidery grabbed this from Brian Windhorst's latest podcast. There remains no interest in any team trading for Zach LaVine amidst a career-best efficiency season. That his contract is a massive hurdle that the Bulls won't be able to overcome. So this is saying essentially that Zach LaVine and the Bulls are going to be stuck with each other, and I don't think that's best for either side here. That's a bad result for Zach LaVine. That's a bad result for the Bulls. The Bulls pick is top 10 protected. Right now, they are very much in danger of losing that pick. They're exactly where they do not want to be in terms of the standings. They need to jettison some talent here. They're the 10 seed right now in the Eastern Conference. They need to move some talent off so they can drop down lower in the standings. Look, if I'm a Chicago Bulls fan, I don't care about them squeaking into the play-in. Again, I don't care about a little bit of play-in revenue. I want a team that can really do something. And sitting in the 10 seed, that's not that. Plus, if you're Zach LaVine, do you even want to be where he's at currently in Chicago? You want to be on a team that can potentially win as well. And that's not really an opportunity that you're going to get with the Chicago Bulls. So it makes sense for both parties for a move to happen. Just the problem is he makes $43 million and then he's got 2 more years under contract and no team wants to pay him that.
Yeah, that's just so crazy. We've talked a lot about Zach, and one of the things we always say is that while he's a phenomenal player, he's in a weird spot because the entire CBA stuff changed while he was in the middle of this contract, and had this change taken place prior, he probably doesn't get this crazy contract, you know? And so, because what it is that now teams are hyper focused on, you know, how are we building our team for the next few years? They're terrified of taking on long-term salary, especially a big number like this for somebody that's not going to be your number one option. And if they're a team that's looking to be a championship contender, if you're making $50 million, you got to be at worst the second best player on that team. And he wouldn't be that. I don't know that you can slot him on any contender and say that he's the second best player on their team and say that they're serious contenders. And so that's where he's kind of at. And it's really unfortunate. He's also getting a little bit up there in age at 29 here. So I know that, you know, this will start looking, maybe it'll still, I think it'll age like better than you would probably think. Because of the skill set, but I don't think he'll be worth $50 million a couple years from now because he's not worth it now. So it's just kind of a weird situation that he's in for sure with this contract that he has here right now.
The tough part is too that he's doing everything that he needs to do in order to get moved. Right. I mean, that's exact coming into this season. Nobody wanted Zach LaVine over the summer. All the conversation was in order for Zach LaVine to get traded, what he has to do is get back out on the floor, stay on the floor, and remind everybody how awesome he is, because he is really, really good. He is a good basketball player. He could help a lot of teams. The problem is the salary slotting. He's being paid, like you said, like a 1A guy, and that's not what he is, but he would help so many teams, and he has done nothing to disprove that notion. 43% from three, 51% from the field. Good. Like, if anything, if I'm an opposing team, I'm looking at that and I'm going, is regression going to hit him? Because that's crazy numbers that he's putting up right now. 4.2 boards, 4.4 assists, 22 points for Zach LaVine. He would be a major addition to a lot of teams. Under the new CBA, though, you just can't have that contract. And so that's the problem. So what's the solution? I think you have to find, if you're Chicago, you got to keep continuing to explore the market. Is it dire enough? Because we heard these rumors over the summer. Where do you think the Bulls get to a point where they say, okay, we get nobody wants Zach LaVine. What if we kick in a draft asset? Do you think they could maybe grease the wheels of a deal? Is that what it's going to take? And should Chicago do that?
That absolutely sucks if you're the Bulls, where he's playing as good as you could ask him to play. He's been awesome. But when we looked at their numbers, it was pretty apparent that having him out there was a bad thing in terms of like as what you would imagine. But when you looked at their lineups, all that stuff, he was always a positive for this team. So he's been really good. So they need to get off of him because they want to have their draft pick. Yeah. In this case, it's a bad thing that he's a positive player. And so, yeah, it's kind of crazy if they decide that they wanted to, because prior to the season, it was more understandable. Because he could have been seen as such a massive negative because we hadn't seen him in a while, right? But that's not been the case this season. He's been awesome. So that sucks so much if you're the Bulls. And he's got a couple years under contract. The reality is that if he's not traded here and now or at the deadline this year, or in the offseason, we're going to have the same. We're going to come back a year from now. We're going to have this exact same conversation. And, it really won't change anything. He may not get traded for a couple years at this rate, where he is truly an expiring deal. So it's just a weird spot that he's in all. And then the Bulls, I think it's pretty crazy if they got to get there. But if they really want him out of here, they may have to do it.
Oh, gosh. Is Zach LaVine the new John Collins, who was just on the trade block forever? For the Atlanta Hawks until they finally moved him. That's going to be an interesting thing to keep an eye on here. But as you mentioned, they are better with him on the floor. They're plus 18 per 100 possessions with Zach LaVine on the floor. Now you look at Montes Buzelis. That's exactly what the Bulls want to see. They're a plus 21. It's not that all of the guys. Oh my gosh, there's our old friend Taylor Horton Tucker as a plus.
Look at the minutes though.
They're tiny. Right.
But LaVine's got a huge minute distribution, second most on the team.
He's playing a ton of minutes for the Bulls, but he's making a major positive impact. And unfortunately, positives are negatives right now for the Bulls, and that's not what you want to do. Hey, what do you make of Nikola Vucevic being a -1 win, minus 0.6 per 100 possessions? And he's playing arguably the best basketball of his career right now.
I was going to say, has he kind of regressed a little bit? Because last time I looked at him, he was awesome out there. But that's kind of crazy. It looks like they're getting killed when he's on the floor defensively, and that's probably a big reason as to why. That's been the main knock with him for his career, just in general. So I'd assume that's why, because they're getting just destroyed defensively.
Yeah, exactly. That's the problem on that side of the ball. And it's a problem with Zach LaVine, too. You can see a 46th percentile with Zach LaVine on the floor, but he is so good on the offensive end that it's more than making up for it. In fact, I can only imagine what this is going to look like. Oh my God, there it is. Look at this, 87th percentile among forwards in points per shot attempt. Whew.
That's awesome.
He is crushing it right now.
Yeah,
man.
That's why I said it's crazy to say they should get off an asset, but it's weird because that contract, like if the contract was just like 10 million less, I think he would have been traded a while ago. It's just a weird spot that they're in because it's a 40+ million and it's going up each year.
All right, Donnie, push comes to shove. Here we are. Let's say Zach LaVine right now, Windy, Brian Windhorst says there's no interest. Push comes to shove. Zach LaVine continues playing at this level from now until February 6th. On February 7th, is he a Chicago Bull, or does someone finally say, okay, this guy really is this damn good, let's go get him?
I'd like the latter for both parties, but I think that it's probably more of the former. I also wonder if they'll get to a point where they just sit him out, try to find a way to, just load manage him as much as they can. I also wanted to bring up this too. They're not able to waive him, right? Or maybe they
No,
can waive him, but
no, they can't.
a
It would
team
lock
can't
his
pick
money
him
on their
up.
books.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I'm not thinking about that. I was thinking more about the fact that they could do the stretch and wave, and then
Oh,
he'd be a buyout guy. But yeah, that's not great either.
well, and even if that happened, a tier one apron teams and above
Yeah,
would
that's
not
why.
be able to sign him off the buyout market because he's making more the MLE. And then if he were to waive and stretch, that would be you can double the years plus one. So the Bulls. So what's the total salary? It's like almost $150 million. So
Jesus.
double the years, so six. So for 7 years, you'd be paying that $150 million. That would be dead cap sitting on your books. Let's do the real math here, real quick here. Let's do 43 million plus we'll call it 46 million
And 49.
plus another 40. Let's call it 50 million. Divided by you'd be paying over 7 years. That's $20 million in dead money on your books for the next 7 years. Yeah, there's
For
no
a
way.
rebuilding team?
There's no way they buy him out. There's no way. He would have to give back almost his whole salary, I think, for them to buy him out.
Yeah. Do you think he'd do it?
No.
No.
No, I'm
Maybe
not doing it.
maybe
I'm
go
not giving up
next
that
year.
much money.
Next year
150 million?
he's like, all right, let me out of here. I'm done with this.
Now, I could see not this summer, but the next summer, maybe he doesn't pick up his player option and he goes somewhere. Very unlikely. Very unlikely. By the way, I'm pick 50 million. Nobody's going to pay him 50 million. I'm picking that up most certainly. But if he is willing to give up money, maybe a 31-year-old Zach LaVine says, I will give me a 3-year deal somewhere at a decent number, 25 million a season, 75 million overall, and I'll give up 50 million in this season in order to go do it if it's a winning team. Maybe. Even that though is a little far-fetched. I'm probably not giving up 50 million bucks in one season if I'm Zach LaVine.
Going to a destination of his choosing after being potentially locked in to Chicago, and he chose to be there, so I don't make it sound like he's a prisoner, but potentially being locked in, quote unquote, for a while. I mean, it could happen. That's why I asked about the waiving thing, because I don't think he wants to give back that money, but it's more about how badly do you want to get out of there.
Sure. What I mean, when there was week before, there was a fan asking him about trades, and he said he likes Chicago. So that's his stance right now. He's not gonna. He's doing everything he needs to do. He's not rocking the boat. He's playing great, and then we'll see. I gotta say, no one hates the new CBA more than me, except for Zach LaVine. Zach LaVine has to absolutely hate the new CBA because you're right. He is under the old CBA. There's a decent chance that he's traded by now.
Yeah, that's what I said. The guys like him, we hit a period where everyone was getting max deals for a while, and he's one of those guys. And so guys like him were getting these contracts handed out like candy, but they were also getting flipped pretty easily. And so, yeah, under the old CBA, without the constrictions that would be put on your franchise, and there's a lot of them there, he would have been moved a while ago, because I think he could definitely, for that salary number, help out some teams. And then another thing too is the contract numbers are so big that it also get, because the numbers are so big, it gets really hard to find the matching salary. That's one thing I'm noticing too, is that it's hard to match 40+ million without sending out a handful of guys. So that's another sub discussion point for the CBA too.
Absolutely. It definitely is. Definitely is. Everybody, let us know in the comment section. What do you think? Will Zach LaVine find a new team by the trade deadline? Will the Bulls be able to get a deal done for a very talented but overpaid player? Let us know in the comment section. Go check out our latest video on Jimmy Butler responding to rumors that he could be on his way out of Miami. Go check that out right now.